and good afternoon. My name is Konstantinos, and today is January 2nd, 2026. I would like to say at first a warm Happy New Year 2026. So, this is another episode of a series of episodes about the Federal Degree Law number 33 of 2021 regarding the regulation of employment relationships and its amendments of the United Arab Emirates. The particular document was compiled, let's say, from the Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization of the United Arab Emirates. In this video, we are going to see the article number the article 13, employers' obligations. We are going to see the second part of the article 13. So at first, let's go to article 13. Let's navigate to article 13. Article 13, employers' obligations. In the first part, in the last video of the series, I was able to cover from clause 1 up to clause 5. Correct. And in this video, I will cover from clause 6 up to I will cover from, in this video I will cover clause 6 up to clause 9 in order for the video to be short and engaging. So again, article 13, employers' obligations. The article 13 have 13 clauses, 14 clauses, or else 14 paragraphs. In this video, we are going to see from clause 6 up to clause 9. Easy peasy. So, clause 6, providing the necessary means of prevention to protect the workers from the risk of occupational diseases and injuries that may occur during work, ensuring the provision of regulations on guidance and awareness, providing appropriate training for workers to avoid such a risk, conducting periodic evaluation to ensure that all parties to the employment relationship comply with and meet the requirements of health and occupational security and safety in accordance with the provisions of this degree law, its implementing regulation and the legislation in force in this regard. So let's in my opinion, it's better practice to conclude today's clauses from 6 up to 9 and then discuss any questions I may have for each clause. Clause 7, taking the necessary actions to ensure that the worker is aware of his rights and obligations at work, according to the tools and methods appropriate to the nature of the work and the workers therein. Clause 8, bearing the cost of the worker's medical care in accordance with the legislation in force in the state. And clause 9, bearing the expenses of insurances, contributions and guarantees defined by the legislation in force. So again, it's Article 13, employer's obligations. I will speak slow and steady in order for you to be able to understand clearly what I am saying. So, clauses 6 up to clause 9 are part of the bylaw employers' obligations in Dubai and in general in the United Arab Emirates. So, in essence, the employer is bearing, that means will have to pay the expenses of insurance, contributions and guarantees defined by the legislation in force, have to pay the cost of the workers' medical care in accordance with the legislation in force in the state, and again the state is the United Arab Emirates. Take the necessary actions to ensure that the worker is aware of his rights and obligations at work. Okay, this is according to the tools and methods appropriate to the nature of the work and the workers therein. According to the tools and methods appropriate to the nature of the work and the workers therein. Okay, so I believe the clause 7 is set might be not the correct word. Clause 7, yes, let me phrase it again. Let me phrase it correctly. So, clause 7 indicates that in essence the employer need to educate the worker for the worker's rights and obligations at work. But in my opinion, this takes place mostly from the establishment of the employment contract, because in a particular employment contract, again in a particular employment contract, there is in a formal way the rights and the obligations of the employer along with the rights and obligations of the worker. And if these rights and obligations have further analysis, then the employer provides a particular, let's say, booklet with the rules and regulations of the workplace to the worker. But in essence, by law, the employer needs to educate the worker for his or her rights and obligations at work according to the tools and methods appropriate to the nature of the work and the workers therein. And clause 6 is necessary for the employer by law to provide the necessary means of prevention to protect workers from the risk of occupational diseases and injuries that may occur during work. ensuring the provisions of regulations on guidance and awareness, providing appropriate training for workers to avoid such risk, conducting periodic evaluation to ensure that all parties to the employment relationship comply with and meet the requirements of health and occupational security and safety in accordance with the provisions of the degree law, its implementing regulation and the legislation in force in this regard. So it's a lengthy paragraph. It's a breathtaking paragraph, let's say. I believe it would be more wise to have the particular paragraph tokenized into smaller paragraphs. So let's tokenize the particular paragraph. The employer should provide the necessary means of prevention to protect the workers from the risk of occupational diseases and injuries that may occur during work. So in essence, the employer have to have in place the necessary tools of prevention to protect the workers from the risk of occupational diseases and injuries, and also in addition to protect the employer from potential legislation risk. And these means of prevention the particular means of prevention should ensure the provision of regulations on guidance and awareness, so in essence, by saying ensuring the provision of regulations, on guidance and awareness, what this means? This means that as means of prevention, the employer needs to provide appropriate training to the workers in order for the employer to avoid the risk the workers to have occupational diseases and injuries. And in addition, the employer needs to conduct periodic evaluation to ensure that all parties to the employment relationship, the employer side and the worker side, comply with and meet the requirements of health and occupational security and safety in accordance with the provisions of this degree law. So in essence, the employer, in accordance to his relationship with the worker, need to educate the worker for the risk of occupational diseases and injuries that may occur during work, and also he needs to set the proper framework in the business operations in order to ensure that all the parties involved in the employment relationship are properly trained and follow the specific the specific regulations on guidance and awareness for the prevention of occupational diseases and injuries in the working environment. Again, it's necessary for the employer to provide the specific means of prevention, because in accordance with the provisions of the degree law, it's implementing regulation and the legislation in force in this regard. So in essence, in plain English, the employer is obligated to follow the particular path to ensure the provision of regulations on guidance and awareness in the business environment, because of the law, because there is a provision for this in the employment law of the United Arab Emirates, and the employer needs to follow the particular law, or the employer will face the consequences for not following the law from the authorized authorities of the United Arab Emirates, or from the authorities that have the authorization to implement investigations if an employer is having in place a particular framework in order to protect the workers in his or her business from the risk of occupational diseases and injuries. Okay, that's all for today, and I believe I should it might be a better idea the next time to have to take this part. For example, the next time I will analyze clause 10 up to clause 14. So I believe it's better idea to take the particular clause, copy it, paste it in a Word document, and if any of the clauses need expansion, for me to expand it in the Word document in order for me to be more clear to you in my explanations for the particular law. In any case, this is Konstantinos. Thank you for watching. See you on the next episode. And again, Happy New Year 2026.